Pretenders. We've talked about it in length already. It's just one thing I just want to mention now that we got some really good final packaging. It's interesting that Hasbro has decided to go with the naming conventions on the packaging. Like we've constantly have been referring to, like, let's say uh, the Metal Hawk Pretender shell, if you will,
Hmm.
referring to it as the Metal Hawk Pretender shell or the Metal Hawk Decoy Armor. But it seems that the naming convention that Hasbro is going to go with is they're just going to refer to it as Prime Master Vector Prime, and using the whoever the Prime Master is, using that as the name of the product.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because then that means a lot of the original 13 are going to have their names registered and be the top billing of the product. So you have Vector Prime and Micronus here using from what I was going to assume was going to be called Cloudburst,
Hmm.
because that's Cloudburst's armor from, or Clouder, as he was, not Clouder, in Master Force.
Right.
But either way, like, it's interesting. I think, he's called Phoenix. That's what it was called. I had to wait for it to click in my head.
Mm.
Um, it's interesting that they're going with these original 13 names. So now it gives us an idea that we're going to have all these Prime Master low price point stuff, and all of them are going to be registered original 13 names. Because I'm looking at, actually, what's interesting? Huh.
What?
Micronus doesn't have a trademark next to it. That is very
Mm.
fascinating. I just noticed that now. Vector Prime has a TM trademark next to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Micronus doesn't.
Maybe this is not final. This packaging's
I
not
I'm
final.
assuming that it's very weird because I'm looking at some of the others. Swoop does,
Don't
Slug does. He
don't
has
say
the
that too loud because
yeah. Someone's gonna.
someone might snake in.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Huh? That's very weird that they didn't trademark it.
So then, what character would this be if this wasn't Micronus? If this was another, just
Well,
exactly what you said,
the
Phoenix?
armor is supposed to represent the character from Pretenders, Cloudburst, aka Phoenix in Master Force.
Right.
So I mean, and I assumed that that's how they were going to be marketed as too, where the armor is Metal Hawk, but the Prime Master is so and so. But
Right.
evidently not. I mean, that's very interesting. Huh, very interesting. This is something I'm just realizing this now. So, anyways, but that's something I just wanted to point out. It looks like we're going to have a whole bunch of original 13 members being the top billing in the name of the product using these Pretender armors going forward.
Well,
And it's
part of me is, I guess, a little surprised, and probably maybe we shouldn't be because in the last movie, didn't they have one of the original 13 in the movie?
well,
I mean, in some way, shape, or form,
I
even
mean,
though it wasn't explained how she's there, blah blah blah. But
well,
technically, no,
the thing. See, the thing is that when you talk in original 13 members, you could go as far as the Fallen. He's
right?
one of the original 13. He was Megatronus. That was his
Hmm.
original name before he became the Fallen. Quintessa isn't really an original 13 member. There was I do understand what you're getting at.
Mm.
There was an original 13 member that, like, seeing the problem with that is because, like, right, we're still kind of, we're still kind of on the out, really, on the 13 of, like, what's the final group.
Right.
Because there was a Quintus Prime in the
Okay.
original 13 who was like a Quintesson esque kind of character, but it was a he. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, and there, I mean, we're in this situation where it's like, I mean, when we're talking the original 13, there was a point, and I remember Aaron Archer talked about this, and I'm actually kind of glad we're getting into this with using this topic, I guess.
Okay.
But I mean, it's something that I remember Aaron Archer brought up, that at one point Hasbro, when they were working on the quote aligned continuity, which was Transformers Prime kind of moving forward, where there was going to be a good solid continuity here.
Right.
There was a lot of hopes to really. That's where the Covenant of Primus book came out, because they really
Yeah.
wanted to establish, all right, here's the true continuity moving forward with this universe.
Right.
And they created a Bible for it and all this information. And all of that recently kind of got just kind of swept under the rug. A lot of it kind of just got ignored, and it
I
just
wonder
like
why. That seems a bit
I
weird
I, I
to
think
like
it.
really drum up support for this, to put out something
Well,
definitive and
for
it
the
be like,
longest
eh.
time, it was like, oh, the original 13 is there's only one set of original 13 and it applies to all continuities. Like
Right.
the movie continuity, original. But then as time progressed, it's just like, oh, a line continuity, the original 13 is these guys. In the IDW continuity, the original 13 are these guys. And granted, there's a lot of similarities between the two.
Hmm.
I mean, the IDW one is very similar to that as the one with Aligned. But then you look at, say, like the original, say, G1 continuity, the
Yeah.
original 13 has guys like Logos Prime, which is just kind of like a Sound Blaster repaint of a
Okay.
Cybertron toy. Like they just added these, and I think there was one called Autonomous Prime, Autonomous Maximus, which is
Okay.
the last Autobot, which appeared in the G2 comic book that you owned and shit like that, and all, and
Oh,
the
okay. Okay.
and the end of G1's Marvel run.
Hmm.
So like there was a lot of so because of that now we don't really like here's the thing that Elita One card that we talked about in the previous segment.
Right.
I'm going to start translating that son of a, you know, and I think we're going to unlock some secrets if I could find a really good one. That's going to be on
That
Twitter,
son of a
guys.
gun.
That thing is. I'm gonna figure. Now I'm a little more determined now that we kind of came across this. So I'm gonna try to figure out see if that this
I don't
stuff
like
mean.
because I just kind of feel like, oh, we're gonna go in this kind of direction and maybe do something with it, but
I don't know. We'll see.
maybe it's not the end of this. Maybe Micronus is the final name. Maybe it's not. Maybe Micronus might be hinting at a Micronauts crossover. I don't know.
Well,
Let's
Micronus,
let's let's make up stuff. Why not?
Micronus is the name of one of the original 13.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just, but it's of course it was called Micronus Prime, which again I
Hmm.
find fascinating. I didn't want to put Prime on the end, considering it's called Power of the Primes.
Well, it's
But
like Prime Master Micronus. Like maybe it.
I
Yeah,
know they
why
put
not?
Vector Prime on Vector Prime,
Yeah, true.
but then again, Vector Prime was a registered name that they've had before, so I guess they
Hmm.
weren't going to just call him Vector at this point. Not to mention Vector is a little too simple.
Broad.
You
Yeah,
can't just
too
use
broad.
Vector.
Hey,
But
hey. Kellogg's called.
yeah, well, that's
Can't
a
do
whole other
that.
story when it comes to trademarking. See previous segment Bumblebee versus Bumblebee.
Mm.
But yeah,